Have you ever met a celebrity but acted like you didn't know them? When I was 21, I was working at this tiny coffee shop in downtown Chicago, the kind of place where the walls are covered with old movie posters, the floors creak every time you take a step, and the smell of burnt espresso never really goes away. It wasn't my dream job, but it helped pay for my mom's medical bills. She'd been fighting lung cancer for almost a year, and even though she kept telling me not to worry about the money, I knew things were getting bad. That week, she'd been admitted to the hospital again. The doctors said it might be time to start preparing ourselves, but I just couldn't accept it. I kept telling myself that if I worked more hours, sent more money, maybe things would turn around. So I picked up double shifts and practically lived behind that counter. I barely ate, barely slept. My uniform smelled like coffee and sweat. It was a freezing Thursday morning when it happened. I'd been up since 4 a.m. trying not to cry while pouring milk into the steamer. The place was half empty, just a few regulars tapping away on their laptops. Then the doorbell jingled, and this guy walked in wearing a beanie pulled low and sunglasses, even though it was cloudy outside. He ordered quietly, barely looking up, and for a second, I didn't recognize him. But then he smiled, and I swear my brain froze. It was Ryan Gosling. Like the Ryan Gosling. The same guy from all those romantic movies my mom used to love watching when she was too tired to get out of bed. She'd always joke that if she ever met him, she'd leave my dad in a heartbeat. It was one of the only things that could make her laugh near the end. I wanted to freak out. I wanted to tell him how much my mom adored him. But the moment I looked at his face, I realized he was trying really hard not to be noticed. So I just smiled and asked, "For here or to go?" He looked surprised, like he expected me to say something else. For here, thanks. I made his latte exactly how he ordered it. No small talk, no fangirling, nothing. I slid the cup across the counter and said, "Have a good morning." He nodded and went to sit by the window, where he took out a notebook and started writing something. I tried not to stare, but my hands were shaking so badly I spilled hot milk all over the counter. My coworker joked that I needed a nap, but I couldn't explain that Ryan Gosling was 10 feet away. He stayed for about half an hour. When he got up to leave, he came over to the counter and said, "Thanks for the coffee." I just smiled and said, "Anytime." He smiled back kind of softly and walked out into the cold. When I went to clean his table, I saw something folded under his cup. It was a note written on a napkin that said, "You never know how much a quiet smile can help someone's day. Keep going." Next to it was $500 in cash, folded neatly inside the napkin. I thought it had to be a mistake. My hands started shaking all over again. I ran outside to try and stop him, but he was already gone, vanished into the busy street. That night, after my shift, I used the money to buy a bus ticket home. It was a 6-hour ride, and I barely slept the whole way. When I finally got to the hospital, my mom was sleeping, so pale she almost looked like a ghost. When she opened her eyes and saw me, she smiled. I told her, "Mom, you'll never believe who came into the coffee shop today." She laughed weakly, saying, "Don't tell me Ryan Gosling." I just smiled and nodded. Her eyes lit up for a second, and she whispered, "See? I told you he's a good guy." We talked for hours that night. I held her hand while she drifted in and out of sleep. And the next morning, just as the sun was coming up, she passed away peacefully. I was right there beside her. If I hadn't met him that day, if he hadn't left that note and that money, I wouldn't have made it home in time. I wouldn't have gotten to say goodbye. I still have the napkin pressed flat inside my wallet. The ink has faded now, but you can still read the words, "Keep going." Sometimes when everything feels too heavy, I take it out and read it again. And every time I do, it feels like my mom's still there, smiling at me through his words. Because of him, I got to hold her hand one last time, and that's something I'll never forget.